Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Uncommon Commentators podcast. I'm Antoine Willis. This is my co-host Garrett Brown. This is episode 61 that you guys are watching right now. We really appreciate y'all for joining us. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we always appreciate your time. But of course, I can't do this without my running man, my main man, GB Garrett Brown. How you doing tonight, Garrett? You good, bro?
I'm good, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. It's blessed to talk about some hoops. Always blessed and highly favored to get to do this. Want to give a shout out to my man Wiley on the ones and twos, and my man Jay Holloway for even giving us the opportunity to do this show. Always blessed to do this on Thursday nights. And yeah, man, we have a really great show tonight. I do think it's going to be a pretty exciting show. I'm really honestly looking forward to it. I think that people are really sleeping on the draft this year. I mean, like not, and when I say sleeping, I mean sleeping on like the kind of teams that might get certain picks in the draft this year. Um, and I'm honestly really excited about the young talent that is indeed coming in. But before we get to that, how was your day and all? Was it good? Like it was smooth?
Yeah, it was good until we found out the All-Star East, reserves, and our man Trey didn't make it. I'm disgusted, but you know, it happens every year. But I mean, hey, it's all good.
Yeah, of course, most definitely. That did just happen too. We know
Yeah.
about the All-Star reserves did just get released. Unfortunately, our main man down here in the ATL, Trey Young, did not get a vote this year. He's leading the league in assists right now with 11.4 a game, and unfortunately, he did not get the vote to join the Eastern Conference All-Star team in San Francisco this year. Still a good player, still a star player. You feel me? It's a bunch of stars in the league. Like I'm always going back and forth with my friends on if like they consider Trey a superstar or not, and they always think like, oh man, like in 2024, like it's really hard to call like even a guy averaging like 23 and 12 a superstar. Now, has his shooting regressed? It has a little bit, but I think that's honestly been a blessing in disguise for Trey, seeing how his teammates have gotten way better. This is one of the best supporting cast, dare I say, he's ever had in his entire career. And I feel like the numbers have shown that with his assist increasing the way that they have. I think it only shows that he's adapting more into his leadership role, knowing that the offensive weapons that are at his possession now, especially with Zachary Risachet, with even at the time we record this, he's having a crazy game against the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, the number one seed of the Eastern Conference. He's playing phenomenal. He shot like 7 for 7 in the first half, like 20 points. He's playing great right now, literally as we record this. So just wanted to give a shout out to Trey Young. We know he did not get the vote this year, but there's a lot of other snubs, of course, this year. Trey's not the only one, but what was your reaction to the snub before we get started on tonight's topics?
Yeah, yeah, he should have made it. I mean, even though the Hawks they're not one of the top teams in the East, but I think that just by looking at just Trey Young's play all year long, him being able to just not able to, but I guess taking more pride into getting more guys involved. You see that his assists has gone up. Like you say, he's leading the league in assists, and he's still a highly efficient scorer. He's averaging 22 points per game, so it's not like he can't score when the team needs him to. But for him to have a higher emphasis or a higher priority of getting other guys, going before himself, that speaks a lot on his leadership and his production. So, and don't get me wrong, I will say that the everybody that made it to the All Star in the East and the West, they all deserved it, no question about it. But Trey, he had a hard, solid case, so I gotta rep my man somewhere. But I mean, hey.
hmm And we know our main man down here in ATL, like he's only going to use it as fuel, of course, to even play better throughout the season. He looks at that kind of stuff. He definitely does. He knows that He deserves to be on that stage with those caliber players, especially leading the league in one of the most important categories in stats in the NBA. As a point guard, it's the literal position. So it's pretty crazy. But again, at the end of the day, he wasn't the only one that was snubbed. He's only 26 years old. So he still has a lot of time left to really get like that 7-8 time All-Star nod. To definitely get his Hall of Fame, like his Hall of Fame credibility, like in case of he doesn't win a ring and or an MVP and stuff like that. Of course, also the All-Star appearances that will indeed get him in the Hall of Fame by his late 30s, which Trae Young definitely deserves to be with the records he's already accumulated in his young NBA career. But tonight we have a really, really, really good show. Super, super smooth, super fun, super entertaining, as always. So for the first topic tonight, like I mentioned when we first started, I think it's gonna be kind of interesting when this draft lottery does come around this summer, and we get to see some of the teams that these generational players are going to go to. It's pretty interesting. It's like the stars have aligned for some of these franchises, given the position that they are in. And yeah, the first topic of tonight's show was just going to be who some of the top 5 players in the draft are going to be in the draft lottery, just based off like where the standings are, or like, stuff like that, and percentages, and like how they performed in college thus far, and how we think like the role would actually benefit the team that they're gonna go to. So Garrett, of course, I can start off with you. Absolutely, always. Who do you pick to be your first pick in the draft this year? And what team would you like to see get the first pick in the draft this year?
Yeah, I would definitely go with Cooper Flag. His talent is very skilled, and really that goes for all the players. And this is a reason why this happens to be one of the deepest drafts we've seen in a long time. But yeah, I have Cooper Flag going to Washington Wizards, #1 overall pick.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. Like, that was literally me, because like for those of y'all that aren't watching the Wizards right now, of course it's understandable if you're not. For those of you that don't live in Washington or in the DC area, the Wizards are currently like 6-40 as we record this. I mean, like you go out there every night, you try to win games because that's your job, and that's all you have to do at the end of the day. And unfortunately for the Wizards, that hasn't happened a lot this season. Just on 6 different occasions, have the Wizards got a W. I'm pretty sure the Hawks lost to the Wizards, so I can't really.
Man, you ain't supposed to mention that, bro.
I'm just giving that for all the Wizards fans out there. all the Wizards fans out there that do listen to our show, that definitely got to show them some love, of course. And like I said, the stars have aligned for franchises that are in this position. So if I was a Wizards fan, I wouldn't be too sad as of right now for the situation that is about to occur in this year draft. I agree with you. That's literally on my notes as well. For the #1 pick in the draft, the Washington Wizards would be Cooper Flag. #2, out of Duke University. He's played absolutely phenomenal this season. Of course, everyone knew about his 42-point game that he did have this year. He's coming off a 28-point game, 28.7 rebound game over NC State last Monday, and he's looked great this season. Truly has lived up to the hype. I know some people, they were saying the word generational last summer before he really touched on the floor at Duke to really play with his teammates, Kaman Malawach, Tyrese Proctor, all this amazing talent that they have under John Scherer. But for me, with Cooper, I think he really has showed the potential of the #1 overall pick, just giving my personal opinion on him. I think he has looked good, currently averaging 20 points and 8 rebounds a game with 4 assists. We know how great of a defender he is as well. He's really looked great on both ends. He's really showcased like the potential of being like a point forward, a little bit of everything. He can score at a high level, shoot at a relatively decent level. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. I just think he's looked really good during his time wearing the blue and white. Really has lived up to the tradition of being a phenom at Duke University. I can't say I'd be shocked if anyone else went number one, like, Dylan Harper, who's also looked good for Rutgers University, or like a Hayes Bailey, who's also looked good for Rutgers University. But I think for Cooper, just given the situation of the Washington Wizards, they need like a bona fide, guaranteed superstar. And I think Cooper Flack's going to be that through and through. Just him getting drafted into the Washington Wizards uniform is going to give them so much revenue. Just knowing that that's officially his team. He's going to be there for a while. They're going to do whatever they can to satisfy him, build a team around him. He's a hard-working kid from Des Moines. So like I think he's going to give the Washington Wizards franchise a lot of time to build a team around him. And I think he's going to look good when he first makes his debut. We'll see if he wins Rookie of the Year. He's going to have a pretty crazy class, a lot of competition when he first gets drafted. But I think he'll impact the team really good, really thinking about who they have, like players like Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma. Of course, Kyle Kuzma, there were reports of him saying that he's losing patience when it comes to the Washington Wizards franchise situation. And that's understandably so, seeing how like the record is right now and things of that nature. But again, like they shouldn't have too much more to worry about. They can't really get too much worse than they already are. So it's really just about going up from here. And I think that's what's going to happen when they draft Cooper. It's going to be a long process. Building the team around him in Washington. It's going to take some years, I'm not going to lie, but he is going to shine early. I think they're going to pass him the ball early. 19 years old, he is going to be out there, and he's going to get the keys to the franchise. He's going to become the face, and he's going to go on to be like one of those dudes in the league come like 2030, 2032, 2033. You're sitting at home, with your family, you're going to be watching a commercial with Cooper Flag on it. Hopefully the Wizards will be like contenders by then, way better team. And like, he'll just be one of those guys in the league, of course, with other rivals like Victor Wembanyama and other players of that stature, of that caliber. But how do you think Cooper Flag would impact the organization with what they've got going on? Like, do you think Jordan Poole would be a good veteran for him? Like, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you drafted Alex Sarr last year in the draft.
Yes, they
So
did.
adding a 6'10" forward with Cooper Flag, you're adding a lot of size and you're adding a lot on both ends of the floor because both guys can produce on both ends of the floor. And we all know what Jordan Poole can do at his position. And I'm not sure if Jordan Poole is part of the long-term plans, but whether if he is or not, I do think that he can still be that veteran point guard. He comes from a championship pedigree team with Golden State. He won a ring with them there. So with the combination of Alex Sarr, potentially Cooper Flag, and Jordan Poole, that's a solid trio. I don't think they would be nowhere near a top 6 seed team, and they may not even be a playing team with that maybe, but they still need to add more. But I think for Cooper Flag and adding him along with those two other guys, you're onto a solid start. So I think it will look really nice.
And I like what you said, bringing up Alex Sarr. I think that they would make a really good tandem together, like especially on the defensive end with those two guys on your perimeter like that. We know how agile Alex Sarr is. He isn't just like a stick in the mud at 7'1". He's really a new modern era version of the big man, being able to shoot the three. He can dribble a little bit. He can dunk the ball. He's had some flashes of greatness, this season here and there. Of course, we know his summer league campaign wasn't all that great. And of course, before we had this show, me and Garrett both showed love to him on Twitter. We're both giving him support, knowing that it's really hard in the NBA, especially having the pressure of a top 3 pick coming in, having to change a franchise the way Alex Sarr is expected to. So hopefully Cooper Flag alleviates a lot of that pressure and absorbs a lot of it in the process. And it's going to be exciting to see those guys grow together. We see Cooper right now playing with another dynamic big man in Kaman Maluach. And I think he's only going to improve as he gets drafted, as he comes into his actual role inside of the NBA. Of course, I think he'll be a one and done at Duke, so we won't get to see him really grow that much inside of the blue and white. But in Washington, I think it's going to be exciting to see him change that franchise. And I'm really excited for the Wizards fans out there for, going through it, surviving, regardless of whatever. If they get, if they get run amok like the Pistons did a couple of years ago and get like the third pick, of course for them, of course in reality that's still really high, but like a team that's 6-40 truly deserves no less than the number one overall pick. But of course, if they get even the third pick, they're still bona fide. Like they're still guaranteed to get a bona fide star.
It could be worse now because Detroit, they had the worst record last year, and they had the number, and they were picking number 5. So you know how the draft lottery can be, because even for Atlanta, we didn't have the worst record; it had the number 1 overall pick. So you know anything could happen, man. But yeah, for Washington, you know, as bad as their record is, they could wind up not even being, I mean, probably in the top 5, hopefully, but that's how it is now.
And even then, as we say that, who was your number 2 overall pick, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I have Ace Bailey out of Rutgers University going to Portland.
Okay.
Number 2.
Okay. I could see that for sure, man. Like playing alongside Scoot Henderson like that, forming a backcourt. I mean, it'd be really cool to see him really come in and really. It'd be kind of interesting to see like who they would really go forward with as like that franchise centerpiece, whether it's Scoot Henderson or Ace Bailey. I don't want to disrespect Scoot Henderson and like say, Ace Bailey has more potential than him. I think we definitely got to see Ace hit the floor in the actual league first to assess that. But I do think that on paper, as teammates, they would form a very athletic backcourt, extremely dynamic. Sure. I think Ace Bailey, his jump shot is coming along. So I do think he would look really good. You know, he would come in and play with Shaedon Sharpe, Fernie Simons, Deni Avdija, a really good young core of talent who are all really starting to develop really nicely over in Portland. Regardless of whatever their record says, I do think they are all looking really good individually. I've always been high on Deni Avdija, who's averaging 15 points a game this year. He just had 30 points last night. His last game. And before that, he had 28 points the game before that versus OKC. Of course, they lost that game. It was only a 10-point loss, but like he still looked really good. And that whole core is really exciting to me. So I really am happy you chose Portland. I think he'd be a good fit. It actually does make sense that you did pick Portland for Ace Bailey to get drafted to that team. For me, so I guess it's cool that my number 2 pick was different. I had the Utah Jazz with the number 2 overall pick, and I was gonna have Dylan Harper go out number 2, just based on with what he's shown. Now, like, of course, any mock draft you guys check, I'm not just saying that to be like, you know, to give both players credit and stuff like that. We only deal in facts on this podcast, of course, and this is the literal truth. Any mock drafts you check, they all show Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper flip-flopping as the number 2 overall pick. It is extremely subjective for those guys to go number 2. So it's pretty interesting that these guys are literally playing together for the same team right now. And I just think Dylan Harper has looked really good over at Rutgers. You know, he's had a lot of highlights this year all over social media. He's had a lot of big shots, great shots. You know, he's hit game winners at this point. He's averaging 19 points a game with 4 assists and 5 rebounds right now. And as a 6'6" guard, I just think he has a lot of potential in this new modern era of the NBA. His ability to slash, he's really fluid when getting to the bucket. His jump shot, he's just a real advanced player for his age. Of course, we could credit that to being the son of an NBA player, Ron Harper, of course. And he just looked great over at Rutgers. I would be pretty surprised if he went past number 3, just with the potential that he possesses and like his ability on the floor. A good young 18-year-old point guard who doesn't like starting off a franchise with that. And I think his future is really exciting, man. I'm honestly looking forward to it. He is going to be like, if we fast forward again, like 10 years from now, he's going to be one of those dudes you see all over commercials. Like his jersey's going to be everywhere inside of his arena. Like I truly am excited to see what both of these players do. Of course, these are both of our number 2 picks. And I just think he's going to look great. I guess I'll go ahead and get to my 3rd pick. My 3rd pick was actually the New Orleans Pelicans, and that was Ace Bailey for me. Ace Bailey wasn't going to go too far. It definitely wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
Truly phenomenal player, just like Garrett described. And like I said, Ace Bailey is his potential to me, like, 6'9" with his athleticism, like his scoring prowess. Like, he's just honestly been a great player. He had 37 last game versus Northwestern, and he really has lived up to the hype this year. Both these players have. So it's pretty remarkable that the Rutgers scouting department managed to bag both of these guys in the same summer. And then, like, he's honestly looked great himself. 21 points a game with 7 rebounds. Well, 8 rebounds if you round up. And he's phenomenal. So I think if he were to go in with New Orleans, like, it would be great for them to finally be able to move on from the Zion Williamson era. Like we mentioned on another podcast, he has only played 10 games this season. And a part of it is due to personal reasons, like listed on the injury report. We all know, like, the elephant in the room is about Zion's weight problems. Unfortunately, it's been an issue for him ever since he got drafted back in 2019. And I mentioned on the last time that we talked about this, I really think a part of it is his inspiration with wanting to play for the Pelicans. I think with making as much money as he is, in like with the amount of money remaining on the table, I think he'd only want to continue to live up to his potential as an NBA superstar and get as many NBA maxes as possible before he retires. And I just think it's the scenery for him. I don't think he likes playing for New Orleans. I think, arguably after like his second year, he was truly done with it. Like I mentioned, like he was averaging like 27 points a game his sophomore year for the Pelicans. But I just think something went wrong. I think like they're asking so much out of him and they're not finding success. Like they got Brandon Ingram, they got CJ McCollum, but they're still not managing to put the wins together, even when Zion has been healthy. They haven't really had like a deep playoff run. They've had like momentum. Like I remember like the one game they were looking good against the Lakers, but Zion, of course, I think it was a hamstring injury he suffered. And you can see in his frustration that he was really, really frustrated because he knew how big of a win that would have been over Los Angeles in like a pivotal matchup that season. That was last year when this occurred. And just like now, in like that alone, he came back this next season to only play 10 games. So, and again, like I mentioned before, I even said all of that, it was due to personal reasons. It's not like some massive injury that Zion's been listed with that's kept him out for this long. And I just think this pick would be tailor-made for them to finally move on from the Pelicans. I mean, not Pelicans, move on from the Zion Williamson era on the Pelicans. And like, I'm really excited for them as a franchise. Either way, they got DeJounte Murray, Herbert Jones, Trey Murphy, and it's honestly a really good core even now. All I need is like that one piece for the future, and they're finally about to get that, and I'm really excited for them in this draft. But who did you have with the third pick this summer?
Yeah, so for the third pick, I had Dylan Harper going to Brooklyn out of Rutgers University. Of course, for Brooklyn, they're one of those teams that they're completely going to full rebuild. I mean, they traded Mikal Bridges this past summer and got a load of draft picks for him, and they could even get more for Cam Johnson as well if he ends up, Cam Johnson if he's end up getting traded by the deadline next week, next Thursday. So, but obviously, with that being the case, they would need improvement from any position. So why not start with your franchise point guard and Dylan Harper? So I think that would be a good spot for him.
Nah, yeah, man, that's another great pick. I can see that happening too for Brooklyn. I can see him going up to New York. Him and Cam Johnson for the future. That'd be outstanding for the Nets fans. Just their dynamic scoring ability, and I do think they complement each other really well. And we get to see Dylan Harper flourish as a playmaker more. I honestly would enjoy that. My fourth pick in the draft, I feel like this is where it can get really subjective with how deep this draft is, of course. I was going to go with VJ Edgecombe from the Baylor Bears with my fourth pick in the draft. I was going to go with him going to the Toronto Raptors with the fourth pick in the draft. Now, they could certainly get a higher pick than this given the state of their franchise at the moment. But I think VJ would be a great acquisition for the team, currently averaging 15 points and 5 rebounds a game for Baylor. Just a super athletic guard with a jump shot. And like he's really just like really tailor-made fit for the Raptors, in my opinion. I think he could come in and bring like a much-needed scoring production for them. Whether like, of course, off the bench might be kind of hard his first year, but I just think he'd look really good, like him and Grady Dick on the wing and stuff like that. I do think they both complement Scotty Barnes really nicely. And I just think with his talent, it'd be kind of difficult to see him go past maybe the top five, VJ Edgecombe. Of course, there's other players out there like a Trey Johnson, who I think would also look good for Toronto with his ability to score, especially for the Texas Longhorns right now. He's amazing, Trey Johnson. But I think VJ would be a great fit for the Raptors at the fourth pick. But of course, they need a lot of pieces given the current state of their team. But who would you like to see the fourth pick be?
Yeah, so for the fourth pick, I have Trey Johnson out of Texas going to the Pelicans. Um, it's kind of a similar situation with Zion Williamson because if he's not part of the team's long-term plans, obviously that'll think about a replacement. But they also have to think about for Brandon Ingram as well. Even though that the Pelicans they are interested in bringing him back, there's still a possibility that he may not. And so you have to think about that spot
Right.
as well. Trey Johnson, he is a pure scorer at 6'6". So it could be where, hey, he could be the new starting small forward, or he could be their new six man and giving that scoring punch off the bench. And then he could fulfill that scoring for Zion or Brandon Ingram if either one of those guys leave. So they're
Mhm.
definitely going to need to fill in that void.
Nah, for sure, man. And like again, like I said, he's great too. I'm really high on Trey Johnson. It really does show you, like, because everyone keeps talking about it, but it's true. Like, if you really are watching these players, all these players could go on to be stars. I could see Trey Johnson being the sixth man of the year in the future, like whatever team he plays for. Just like it, because it doesn't matter what role he is in, he's always going to be a good scorer. I don't care if he's getting like 8 points off the bench, like for a team his sophomore year. Those 8 points are going to come in like crazy dynamic fashion. He's just a really, really good scorer. I've always been impressed with him. And my last pick of the top five, of course, it was the Brooklyn Nets with the fifth pick in the draft, and I was gonna go with Kasparis Jakusionis from Illinois. I think he's just a really, really good point guard, a really good, well-rounded point guard, averaging 15 points in five assisted game. Another tall point guard who I think is going to look really good in this modern NBA with his playmaking and his scoring at his size, and I just think like he's really shown like a real advanced type of technique for his age as well. Similar to Dylan Harper, I feel like that's honestly really prevalent in this draft with players that are in the lottery in the top 10. A lot of these players are going to make impacts early for their franchises, just given their skill sets in like the franchises that I think they're going to go to. Or well, at least that are all going to be in the lottery because we all know which teams are struggling this year. And I think that Kasparis has looked really good. He really put himself on the map this season, man. Of course, he's young. He's a freshman, obviously, but coming out of Lithuania, man, I just think he's looked really, really, really good. Shooting 38% from three this year. And like I said, he's averaging 16 points, 5 assists with 5 assists a game. So just a good, well-rounded talent. That's him as a freshman. So if he stays like till his senior year, he's gonna be incredible. So I don't think there's really much else we really need to see. And I'm pretty sure the scouts are saying the same thing. So I was gonna go with Kasparis. I do think he will be a top 10 talent in the draft this summer. I think he's capable of it. Absolutely, he's shown that already. And I'm really high on him. Another dude that was my honorable mention here was Igor Demon out of BYU. I like Igor Demon a lot. Just playmaking. He's a really, really good player. And I just thought like he could definitely be in this spot too, given what he has shown already. Of course, everyone would love for him to have a little bit of a better jump shot, but I just think with this offensive prowess, being able to slash, playmaking, get others involved, I just think that he's definitely going to be a top talent in this draft too. Averaging 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists a game right now for the BYU Cougars. So I'm really, really excited about Igor Demon as well. Regardless wherever he goes, I will be watching. Absolutely. But who was your fifth pick in this last top. I mean, in the last pick for the first topic of tonight.
Yeah, I have VJ Escombe out of Baylor going to Philly. This is kind of a weird slot for
Mhm.
Philly, but when you look at for the long term plans, you're kind of thinking about building around Tyrese Maxey. We all know Paul George and Joel Embiid are there. But for me personally, I don't think they're going to go very far with those guys because they're very injury prone and they can't stay healthy to really actually compete for a championship. So I
Right.
think in the back of your mind, you're really thinking about the long term future. Now you do have something in Jared McCain as well. Don't get me wrong. But for VJ Edgecombe, he's another guy that can come in and score at a very high level. And with that, is very interchangeable on who you think is good to start next to Tyrese Maxey and who could be your sixth man coming off the bench.
Mhm.
So, I think that would be a very good pick for them as well. But of course, in this draft, I mean, you're talking about guys, multiple players that could turn to be all-star or superstar caliber players. So you can't go wrong with any of those guys. But I mean, hey, you definitely, have something with these guys. So I think that'd be a good pick for them.
Absolutely. And all of these players are destined to have bright futures, and there's no doubt about that. It
Yep.
really truly just depends on what franchises they go to. And that will honestly be the differential to see like what they do the rookie years, obviously. I think if Cooper goes to Washington, he's gonna feast his first year, at least
For
average
sure.
like 17 points, like 7 rebounds a game, something like that. Be the clear winner, the clear like front runner for rookie of the year. Or like if Dylan Harper did go to, like a Brooklyn Nets, I think he could. I think he could look good early, regardless of whoever the people pick to win rookie of the year. I think it's gonna be hard to really come down to that decision by the end of next year, 2026. We're judging this rookie class. I think Ace Bailey is gonna shine a lot, man, no matter where he goes. Just like because like he just picks it up like really fast, like no matter what system he plays in, like he just looks really good. Like he looked great in high school back in McEachern, and now he's doing the same thing in Rutgers. And I just think it's a true natural talent with his scoring potential. And I think he's going to take over. Same with Cooper Flag. I think those two at one point are going to like low key, like maybe separate themselves from the draft. Like they might even have a rivalry. Who knows? Like that'd be cool to see. But of course, Dylan Harper's always going to be right there, and he could be better than them. You never know. Like we just got to see what happens. Either way, this draft class is going to keep the league entertained for a really, really, really long time. Um, and we know out of the recent draft classes that have came into the league, some of the draft classes have given us superstar talent that have gone on to look good already by 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old. It's pretty ridiculous, like in this modern era of the NBA. It's totally different now. Like these dudes can really come in 19 and really change a franchise like that. Of course, that's happened in the past. We saw players like LeBron James back in 2003, and even Michael Jordan. Like he looked great. Like Charles Barkley has somewhat of a good rookie year for sure. Like he looked great. I just think with this new modern era of the NBA, it's just different now with how young they are, being like 19, 20, showing the potential early with these generational picks. Like of course, we saw Luka Doncic come in when he played for the Dallas Mavericks his rookie year back in 2018, and he looked great. Even Trae Young, of course, he struggled a little bit is the first half of his rookie season, but by the second half, he was looking phenomenal, and he was finishing second in assists by like his sophomore year. So like these new young players have definitely taken it up a notch, as it always happens in every sport, the evolution of athletics and things of that nature. But clearly, as we all know, like I just discussed, LeBron James coming in at the age of 18, he has dominated his entire reign inside the NBA. There aren't many things that he doesn't have. Of course, LeBron, unfortunately, never got Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, there's many times he could have won it where he's looked phenomenal on defense. We know how good of a defender that he is from the perimeter to the interior. At least when he was younger in Miami, in his Cleveland days, and even like his second chapter in Cleveland, he was still a great defender during that era, the LeBronto era, stuff like that. But like we said, LeBron James is unfortunately 40 years old now. And he's definitely closer to the end of his career than he was to the beginning of it. So It's gonna be a sad day when he does decide to hang it up. But the NBA is a business. It was here before LeBron James, and it will be here after LeBron. And they're gonna need a new face. And eventually, that one player will rise to the forefront with his performances, no matter who he is. And it's gonna be exciting to see that torch get passed. But I was gonna start this off with asking you who you think the next face of the NBA will be when LeBron retires, no matter how long it takes, whether it takes him 2-3 years to build a core around them. Like if they're gonna show it early with like putting up dead numbers on like a bad team, but they're looking like a superstar. Doesn't matter the player. Who do you think will be the next face of the league when LeBron retires?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players in this league that could be the face of the franchise. Well, not a franchise, but of the league rather. But you have guys like Anthony Edwards that could be that guy. Luka
Mhm.
Doncic certainly could be that guy. Jason Tatum, he could be that guy. So there are multiple players for sure that could be the face of the league when LeBron officially retires. But my pick would be Victor Wembanyama out of San Antonio, given the fact that I mean, the fact of the matter is, he's over 7 feet tall, 7'2", 7'3", crazy wingspan, and you're talking about a guy that has skill sets of all positions. He's has the ability to really run the offense like a point guard. Now, obviously, he may not exactly have all the skills, but he has the basic skills. Like he can handle the ball just as well as a point guard. He's very quick with the ball and all those things. And you're starting to see big men to have those kind of skills anyways to be able to pass, shoot, and dribble because that's how the league is transforming now. But for to do that at his height and his size is unbelievable. And the scary part about it is who he's going to be just as a dominant big man. Like, say if he didn't have those skill sets and he was just an actual big man, it's really scary. Right now he's averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds, and really 4 blocks a game, and I don't see a player that can really match that. Like I said, you have guys like Luca, who's definitely one of the best, offensive players, not in just in this league, but all time. You could say the same thing for Anthony Edwards. You saw, the deep playoff run he made last year with the Timberwolves, but yeah, I think when you look at a guy like Victor Wembanyama of his skill set, and he's just very, very young, nowhere near in his prime. And I
Mhm.
think if we look at him in the next 10 years, he's going to be a multi defensive player of the year, a multi all-star player, and
MVP.
MVP. He's going to have it all. He's going to have it all, and I just don't think nobody's going to come in and outdo Victor Wembanyama as long as he's able to stay healthy and still continue to get stronger physically. I think he still has a little bit of ways to go. He did put up some muscle over this last summer, which is great. But if he's continued to mature from a physical standpoint, he's going to be just fine. But yeah, Victor Wembanyama, he's going to be very scary. Very scary.
Yeah, man, it's not gonna be much arguing on this episode tonight. Cause yeah, man. Nah, I'm actually excited we get to really discuss this conversation and really just like dive deep into it. I wrote an article on this about a year and a half ago now, just titling it the face of Victor, the future face of the NBA, Victor Wembanyama. And it's really interesting when you really dig into some of the fun facts about his life and especially like what really happened after he got drafted and stuff like that. Also, want to give a shout out to Raina Holloway, the lovely missus of the infamous Jay Holloway. Thank you so much for joining us, Raina. We appreciate you watching. Like we always say, you could be anywhere, but you're here with us right now. We deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate you giving us a click. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yeah, like I was going to say, like with Victor, like, so he has a deal with Louis Vuitton. Like all of his clothes are like custom made. He's like the only player to ever like receive like that type of notoriety in like the fashion game like that as a player.
Hmm.
Like Like all of his suits are custom made because like he's French, and of course Louis Vuitton is a French brand, and they wanted to scoop him up early, and he's sponsored by them, so like he can walk at fashion shows in the future, which he's absolutely going to do. Is like seeing his build and his frame, absolutely like. I just think he's really gonna go on and really show his true potential. Unfortunately, me and Garrett did not get to see Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't get to see Michael Jordan. Unfortunately, I saw LeBron, of course. From Miami, the early Cleveland days, all that stuff. So, I got to mention one of the guys that people revere as one of the greatest of all time. I didn't get to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, unfortunately. That's one of my favorite players. I would have loved to watch Kareem in his prime and stuff like that. But we were blessed to witness the future of Victor Wembanyama. I do think he will go on to really be that guy, like a 7-time like MVP, 6-time Defensive Player of the Year. I do think he's gonna have every single accolade imaginable. He loves San Antonio. I think they're gonna do whatever it takes to keep him with building the core around him. They're already like showing a little bit of progress this year. But either way, like if they're even in the draft, Brian Wright is an amazing GM. So they're going to continue to pick up these great pieces, especially in a draft like this. They could come away with like 2 top 10 picks, and that'd be phenomenal for San Antonio with this draft, and with their young core that they do possess. And with a player like Victor Wembanyama, it doesn't take too much to get him to like a 6 seed. We see what Cade Cunningham is doing for the Detroit Pistons right now with getting them to like somewhat of a playoff team, like 7th, 8th seed around there right now. I think that Victor Wembanyama has the most potential out of all of his peers in the league right now. I do 100% believe that he absolutely has the most potential offensively and defensively. Like Garrett mentioned, he's even a great playmaker as well. A lot of people weren't expecting him to be that good of a playmaker at 7'5". We know how good of a defender that he is. This is a truly unprecedented skill set. I don't think he's going to fall off with his age either. I think by 32, 33, 34, he's still going to be a great player. So it's only going to have a true long era of Victor Wembanyama, and I do think at one point it will be revered as the Victor Wembanyama era. Like how, of course, there's the LeBron James, Stephen Curry era, definitely part of Curry's era for sure. But
I do want to mention this. I do want to mention this too, because you just made up a good point about San Antonio continuing to build around Victor Wembanyama. Now, I almost had him in my top 5 in the draft, and I'm hoping that does not come into fruition, because obviously for anybody who does not know, I'll say it anyways. So a couple years back or so, the Hawks did trade for DeJounte Murray when he was in San Antonio, and the Hawks, they traded their 2025 first round pick, a 2026 pick swap, and their 2027 first round pick as well. And unfortunately, Jalen Johnson, who suffered a left shoulder injury, out for the rest of the year. Hopefully that the Hawks are not that bad to the point where, hey, they would hand San Antonio a top 5 pick. God forbid it that doesn't happen, but it still hurts to this day. It's just like, geez, like it's going to be sick, man. It's going to be sick. But
emotional damage.
Yeah. I can see why you would say that. Of course, the only thing, I say only, but it's a pretty big thing for the Hawks. Of course, we did, in fact, flip that all the way into Dyson Daniels. Which
is great, but goodness, man.
Seriously. We did get Dyson Daniels inadvertently out of that entire deal. Want to give a shout out to Double D, the Great Barrier Thief, great player. Breakout season this year for the Hawks, leading the league in steals this year. Gotta love Dyson Daniels, absolutely. Number 5. Sure. And like we were saying for Victor, I just think he's gonna transcend into a level where he's extremely undeniable. And it's gonna be in an era of the NBA with all these like the social media, like this TV, like HBO Max deal. Like he's gonna really be like in an era where it was tailor made for him to succeed. And he's extremely entertaining as well. I believe he was the first game on Christmas when they played the Knicks at noon. So, or if like there might have been like a 10 o'clock game or something like that. But he was one of the earliest games they had, and plus noon, most families are definitely awake at noon around that time on Christmas Day. So, and like they had him playing the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, like trying to have like that player on display. And I just really think that he's really looked outstanding, honestly. And I'm really excited for his future. I'm really excited for his future. I feel like there's not much that he can't do in terms of his potential. He'll be one of the few players to really end up with an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, every single award imaginable. I do think he is going to get it. And yeah, I think at one point, again, like I mentioned earlier, this will be called the Victor Wembanyama era. And again, like Garrett mentioned, God forbid he get injured. That could literally be the only thing that could stop him. Because I think we're gonna be like when he's 30. By the time he's 30 years old, he is gonna be like on a first name basis, just Victor, like that. Like when he's filled out with his frame and stuff like that.
It's
like,
over.
Like
it's
yeah, like seriously, like when you see him smiling in the camera and he's not all young anymore and stuff like that. Like when like that, it's just gonna be crazy. Like when I'm older than him, it's like I'm already am, but when I'm like 35 and he's 30 and stuff like that, and he's just like, it's just gonna be super cool to see that, man. Like really cool, like super cool to see. Like, cause he also plays for an already legendary franchise as well, the champions of 2003, 2005, 2007, 2014. So, like they're a great franchise, absolutely. The San Antonio Spurs. So they've had a slew of legendary big men come through their halls. So it's only right that they had the soon to be legendary Victor Wembanyama.
Voice of God here. AKA producer Wiley.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have talked about stats, the era, all these things. What about charisma? It's the marketability.
Oh yeah, for
all
sure.
These things that we have. Sure. Nobody's talked about that. And we have Ant, who's by far been probably the most marketable of all probably who we would probably deem the face of the league. You got Jason Tatum. He's been, he has a couple of endorsements. Those are like the main two outside of Wemby. We can put SGA in this. A dark horse in Paolo Banchero. You mentioned Luka. I would say Ja Morant. He has a lot of work that he has to do to get back in graces. But when we think about it, even Ja Morant has his Nike commercials that have been pushed out. Like we haven't really seen anything from Wemby as of yet. And not to say that it's not coming. It's just the fact of all of yes, the play makes a difference, but they also have to be marketable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing that we haven't discussed when it comes to Wemby compared to Anthony Edwards and Jason Tatum, so to speak.
For sure. And those are great points for sure. And that's why I mentioned the Louis Vuitton deal. From the jump, let's say they tell you to make all of his suits, whether it's regular streetwear branding or it's actual suits that he wore he wore the suit at the draft, that long green one. That was Louis Vuitton.
How many people are going to Louis like that though?
But see,
a lot, man.
I mean,
a lot.
I'm talking about the average. We're talking about the average fan. We're talking about your average fan. How many
average fan? I mean, obviously not a lot though.
Right. That's
affording that. Affording that type of clothing all the time. Also, it's tailor made. He's the only person walking around with that type of clothing.
And that makes sense for Victor because of the fact he is from France. And
I mean, he has his own logo with Nike too. So
the alien. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
That's been the only little piece of marketing for Victor that we've seen. compared.
I mean,
he's
he's still
gonna,
young.
bro. He's gonna get more marketing. I mean, like you
Honestly, yeah, he's
say,
still young.
obviously maybe not right now, but it's a guarantee now. It's
And
just kind
it's
of like you don't know where it's going to go, but
right.
like this, like come on now,
No, and
it's
it's
gonna
just
happen.
and you look at it from like your of course, like with Jordan. Jordan became the face, he became the face instantly. But the
Yep,
marketing hit so quick with shoes,
yep,
Gatorade, like
yep.
every McDonald's, like everything just fell into place.
Hmm.
Boom, boom, boom. Hell, you see it. Hell, you see it now in the WNBA. Angel Reese, for example, she has her own cereal, and now she has her own cereal. She Reebok outside of no real branding for that, but
Another Fashion
we know
Nova, you know.
we know that
Hmm.
she's with Reebok. Uh, just saw that she has her own meal with McDonald's. Like these are the things that we haven't seen yet for Victor, but we do see them for again Anthony Edwards, who's Adidas. Hell, he was all over TV for Christmas with the Sprite commercial. Like we
Yeah,
constantly see these things, and it's like, okay, what's the game? Like the games, we know the game is there for Victor. Now, when is everything else for? Because again, being the face of the league is not just hooping. It's also
Mhm.
being everywhere with your brand. Of course, commercial deal. Commercials. Like, when are we going to see more of Victor like we are seeing of Anthony Edwards?
Now,
yeah,
like I will say that, like, Anthony does have 3 years on Victor. Of course, Vic Wimby came in 2023 and Anthony came in 2020 out of the University of Georgia. So I think we just got to see how it plays out over time. I think that the performances are going to speak for themselves. And I think with the specimen that Wembanyama is, that's what's going to give him the edge in terms of the marketability like that. I think people are going to be like thirsting to watch people that have not seen Victor Wembanyama play because, of course, the Spurs were bad, so they weren't on national television like that. The people that have not seen him play, they're going to be dying to witness him play, especially in person. Every team, like every place he goes to, because they're a West Coast team, every East Coast team they play is going to sell out knowing like they get to see that specimen in person. Like they've seen 6'4" shooting guards, be athletic before. They haven't seen a 7'5" athletic dude who can dribble the way that he can, shoot, play defense. Like that's what I think. I think the stars have truly aligned like for Victor. Especially being from France, he has cachet, being foreign 100%. It's definitely a part of it. Anytime the Olympics happen, he'll be on the French national team, which of course they're always going back and forth with the USA and stuff like that. And we'll see him play with Zachary too, so that's gonna be pretty cool.
I'll say they're aligning. I don't want to necessarily say they're aligned. They're aligning for him.
It's there for the taking, certainly. It's certainly
yeah.
there for the taking.
The main and the reason why I say they're aligning because now we need to see him on the national screen.
That stage, absolutely. Like he's that
On the national
series. Like
consistently.
he
So
has to be in the playoffs.
that's
For
why,
like,
and I'm just giving y'all a little pushback. Just
oh no,
yeah. No,
please.
that is true because that's how it is with the league. Where if you're not one of those, at least those upcoming teams. I mean, you can, but it's where you have to be more. It seems like as if you have to be like a top 4, top 5 seed team just to get national attention. I
Yep.
mean, for the Orlando Magic, I mean, for example, I mean, they're kind of just starting getting that attention now because they've been relevant at least for the last season, last season or two. But yeah, so it's like with San Antonio, even though they have Victor Wembanyama that could potentially be the face of the league, it's still not enough. They still need more guys to build
they,
around them.
they did it with
And
Bron. They did it with
mhm.
Bron when he came in the league. I ain't never watched a damn Cleveland Cavaliers game until Bron showed up, unless they were
Because
playing.
he was a specimen, like it was something special. It's a commodity.
But we know the league push it. They push who they want to push.
That is
They
unfortunately
push you.
unfair, but I mean
And I'm not saying
that's
that
how it
it's fair.
works. That's
I'm
how it
not saying
works.
that it's fair. The
Right,
league
right, right.
pushes who they want to push because if we want it, a topic for another day. But
Hmm.
to me, Carmelo should have won Rookie of the Year.
like a 4. I mean, like you say that.
Carmelo should have won rookie of the year over Bron.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you feel me? Like
I'm just saying.
I feel like it goes off impact.
Again,
like,
another topic for another day. But again, that goes to my me saying the league they push who they want to push to be the face.
I think they will eventually though, because Victor Wembanyama and many people have agreed to this, that he was the best draft prospect since LeBron.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And that was like 20 years ago,
20 years
two
ago.
decades ago. So I think that he will get the the marketing that he's supposed to get, but obviously maybe not right now, especially with him being on a bad team. So even right now with the trade deadline, coming, if San Antonio happens to land De'Aaron Fox out of Sacramento, then that could even get them even closer to that national attention that they need. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, for right now, he's still getting there. But I think he'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I mean, like again, like with a player like Wembanyama, like it's not gonna take that long. I do think he's gonna help him make up for lost time. Absolutely. And like, yeah, like we try to see how it plays out over time. I think him being younger than all of these guys does have a benefit. You're not gonna have many dudes that come in like, I mean, unless Cooper takes off and like he's younger than him and now he has a rival. Like you're not gonna have many guys. He has to turn around and like see like who's on his heels from being younger. Like he'll be younger than all these guys, like already like on their heels. And when he has a capable enough core, like it's gonna be over, man. Like when like all it's like Wiley, so like all he needs those movies. He needs those like he really like because obviously he's gone back and forth with Chet Holmgren and stuff like that when they have faced off.
I love that.
And like I would love to see them develop.
That would be another dark horse too. Chet.
Absolutely, like who
that
for the face.
That could be another dark horse.
You think so? I mean, yeah, he's a good player. I think Shea is most definitely up there for certain, especially as an international player like Wembanyama. Of course, he's Canada, but just with him not, because for me, what Victor, what makes him such a top candidate is because like you have to be, and the NBA is full of specimens and full of crazy athletic dudes. So like look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. When you really go watch the Bucks in person and you see like how big, like how his mass as a player and like being able to move like that and like his weight and his speed, his athleticism. So we've already seen like there's levels to it. So we've seen a dude like Giannis. Now we're seeing a dude like Wembanyama, so it's just like, of course, we've seen Wemby have weaknesses. He's been dunked on before. We've seen it happen. And I think like even like a Vika Zubac at one point even caught him slipping this season.
We've seen him, but we've seen him block against Giannis face to face.
Absolutely, and like that's the thing, you feel me? But eventually, it's just a part of the growing pains in the NBA. There will be a point in time where he is the literal top dog. And in the point I was getting to, it's the commonality of suffering when you're building a franchise. They're gonna be bad for a long time, but when they're good, they're gonna be good for a while. And they're gonna have that superstar homegrown. It's not to get a player like that. You can't sign for a player like that. You have to draft a player like that.
Absolutely.
And then another thing I did want to get to, because I know we have to get to our third and final topic, of course. And I really want you to stay for that as well, Wiley. But like I was gonna say, I do think that, and of course, right now, Jaylen Brown does hold the title of the most highest paid NBA player in the history of the league. I think at one point Victor's gonna take that and run with it. Absolutely. Like with a player of his caliber, I think you're gonna see him almost get like Juan Soto money. For those of y'all that don't know, Juan Soto, is an MLB player for the Mets now. And he signed like a 15-year, like $735 million.
Yes. But yeah, Juan Soto signed that $700 million plus deal with the Mets, and that was insane.
Yeah, that's crazy work.
But
crazy
yeah,
work.
But yeah, to get to his point, yeah, I can see Wemby getting that getting that deal above what Jaylen Brown got. But of course, Jalen his timing hit perfectly. Like everything went it.
Mhm.
Like the stars really aligned for Jalen on that one because of the fact that he balled out.
Mm-hmm.
He balls out not only throughout the playoffs, gets the most outstanding player or whatever, gets that award in the
Finals
Eastern
MVP.
Yeah.
Conference Finals, but then goes and wins Finals MVP. So everything lined up for him. So they had to pay him. And then on top of that, the TV deals hit right on time for him to get that bread.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry
Yep.
about that, y'all. Sorry for that technical difficulty.
That's why we here to fill in.
Oh no, it's all good, right? Of course, got the best dudes in the business with me always at all times. But that was the last things I did want to say about that. I really wanted to stress that he is going to get that money. They're going to have to pay so much to keep him because all the other all 29 other teams, the Hawks, are going to try to get Victor Wembanyama. Best believe they're going to try to call his phone and see if they can get him. But if I had to give a prediction, of course, it's like 10, 15 years away. But if I did have to guess, I honestly don't think that Victor's going to leave San Antonio. I do think he will retire a Spur. We've seen it happen before with Tim Duncan. He stayed there his entire career. I think even David Robinson even stayed there his entire career. So even Manu Ginobili stayed there his entire career. Tony Parker did have a stint with the Charlotte Hornets, unfortunately. But of course, that was after like 17 years with the Spurs. So I do think that Victor will stay. And yeah, man, like, and even speaking of franchises with dudes staying and dudes leaving, obviously, one of the biggest stories in the league right now, all of sports, to be quite honest with you, is the Jimmy Butler drama. Wanted to have this nice juicy topic for our last topic tonight. Want to thank y'all again for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate y'all for joining us. Want to thank Raina again and Jay for joining in the chat and giving their 2 cents. Always love chopping it up with them. Always. But Wiley, we saw you hop in, so I did want to start with you. Obviously, you know the whole Jimmy Butler situation, what's going on down in South Beach and things of that nature. So I really just wanted your opinion on what do you think is going to happen to Jimmy Butler's career as a whole, and what do you feel about his legacy? Do you think he'll get a jersey retirement and make the finals twice? During his 6 seasons with the Heat, averaged 21.6 rebounds and 6 assists a game under 6 seasons with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. So what do you think is going to happen with Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat? And Gary, of course, you can go second.
Man, I think that Pat Riley got some work to do. He only got a few days to do so. Now, where does Jimmy Butler go? Not a clue. At one point it was looking like Phoenix. Who knows with that? Of course, Golden State's been mentioned. It's been multiple teams mentioned, but Pat Riley really kind of has no choice but to find a way to get Jimmy Butler out of Miami. As far as Jimmy's legacy, Jimmy's going to be a Hall of Famer. Here's why. He was able to drag 2 Miami Heat teams to the finals by himself for the most part. Like if you go up and down that roster is not filled with so let's compare them to what D Wade had, and then what D Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh had. Like just them 3 alone, like that's already heads and shoulders above the rosters that Jimmy Butler has been on with the Miami Heat. Now, I am basing this just from a Miami Heat standpoint. Now, if we want to expand it and look at his entire career from a behavior standpoint, this is common. He did this in Chicago to get to Minnesota. Did the same thing in Minnesota. Got him to Philly. Did the same thing in Philly. Got him to Miami. So it's a pattern. And the one thing that helps Jimmy out is that he gets to hold this player option of 56 million. And like, hey, I have this option. So if you keep me here, I got 56 million that you're going to end up having to pay me. So it's either get rid of me now or pay me 56 million later. Now, like I said, as far as his legacy is concerned, any jersey retirements, absolutely not. Every like to do this with every team, I would be hard pressed to see a team retire his jersey. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, with just what he did with Miami, he will end up being a Hall of Famer. Not first ballot, but he's going to be out there in Springfield. He's gonna be out there. People can say what they want. People can dislike it all they want. Eventually, he's going to be out there in Springfield with the rest of the Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm. And how you feel about it, Garrett?
Yeah. So with Jimmy, and it definitely aligns with what Riley just pointed out. But like Riley said, yes, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about it. Given the fact that you led the Miami Heat to 2 finals appearances. Now, I think when it comes to the jersey retirement, I think that they should, because of the fact that you were able to do that twice. Now, the only barrier that I could see with that is just how this relationship has been going between him and the Miami Heat organization. Because yes, they have to trade Jimmy, and you have to do it. I mean, there's no way around it. This is not a situation where, well, let's see if we can repair the relationship. Let's see if we can, make this right. That's long gone. There's no coming back from that. You have to trade him. Now, obviously for Pat Riley, you have to take the best deal that you can get, no matter what that looks like. No matter what that looks like, whether that's just a traditional trade with a team, with one team, or if it expands to a multi-team trade just to get the most value back that you can get. But either way it goes, Jimmy has to go, by on next week on Thursday. Now, like I said, I think for me, he has to go for sure. Now, as far as a team that he could potentially go to, or a team that would make most sense, to Wiley's point, you have Phoenix, Milwaukee has been in the mix. You have Golden State as well, and I think for Jimmy at his age, being in his mid 30s, I think he has to go to a team that could win. So that could be for any of those teams. So I think a team like Milwaukee would definitely be a nice fit. I think it would be an intriguing fit, considering the fact that they've lost a lot of defensive players when they traded for Dame. They've lost, Wesley Matthews. They lost Drew Holiday. So I think for a guy that can give them a lot of scoring and produce on the other defensive end as well, I think that'd be a nice fit for Phoenix. It may look cool on paper, but they already have enough, a lot of issues with their roster as well. So I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. And yes, from all the news you've heard today, it looks like it looks like a deal with Phoenix is not going to go. But we've seen a lot of times where anything can happen, overnight. But yeah, I think for Jimmy, I think that despite what's all happening between him and Heat organization, I think he should get a jersey retirement, simply because of the fact that he was able to lead Miami to 2 finals appearances, and made them relevant, with his leadership. So I think he deserves it.
Quick question, Garrett.
Hmm.
You said a possible trade with Milwaukee. If you're Milwaukee, who are you trading Jimmy for? Like who are you?
Middleton.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take at least one core piece. I'm not saying anybody like Dame or Giannis or anything like that, but I think a guy like Chris Middleton, you've heard Bobby Portis as well because they want win now players, but I mean, to your point, Jimmy, he's a future Hall of Famer and also a caliber player. So, if you're trying to win now, if you're Milwaukee, then hey, it may be worth a shot. But you're definitely not getting the farm for him for sure. But I think for if it takes to give up Chris Middleton, then I think obviously you probably have to give up a first round or pick or two.
I was gonna say,
But
didn't he like re-up on his contract like recently, like within like the last year or two, something like that?
tomorrow, Chris
Chris
Middleton,
yeah.
I think he did. I can't
Of course,
necessarily.
we know like contracts are going to come into play.
Of course, yeah. That's why I say it could take from what I've read or heard. It could take a combination of Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis. I'm not sure how the numbers line up, but that's why I say at least a core piece player like Chris Middleton. But like I said, it's just the fact that if you're a team like Milwaukee that's looking to really compete for another championship run, and Giannis is one of those type of players that wants to win, then hey, I think a Damian Lillard and a Jimmy Butler backcourt. I mean that's pretty scary there, but I think that they have the pieces to make a deal happen. But we just have to wait and see.
Yep. Yeah, that's all. I was like, and we're on the same page as far as Chris Middleton would be the guy. Be like, we get you out the way, and probably somebody off the bench to kind of help counter whatever contract, whatever money it is.
And Middleton's making $34 million next year. He has one more year left with the Bucks on a player option. So we'll see if we'll see if Miami's down to pay that. Middleton's 2 years younger than Butler at 33, but his production has dropped off significantly than what we're accustomed to with Chris Middleton. Due to some injuries here and there. So Jimmy right now is averaging 17 points, 5 and 5. At 35 years old. He just turned 35 on September 14th. So, we'll see where he really decides to go. At 35 years old, obviously he still has some left in the tank, but either way, he's not like he's 27 or 28, still in the middle of his prime, and these teams don't want to give him that 4-year deal. He doesn't have the rapport that he had with the Heat front office with all of these other teams. In any of the rapport that is gone, or that was there, is now gone, unfortunately for Jimmy. And regardless of whatever, I will end it with this on our last topic for tonight. I just think Jimmy should go to work. I thought he should have just went to work, man. You're getting paid millions of dollars, of course, to play a sport that there's some kids that are playing out in Alaska in the freezing cold right now for free. You get to play that in front of all these fans who pay all this money to see you play, and that really is a true factor, man. Some of these people work these jobs, work long hours to spend it on NBA tickets, to come out and see you play when you're the face of the franchise and you're not showing up, and because it's pride, it was ego, and I get it, He did a lot for the franchise. He even said that he felt like he had to do the impossible again, because they weren't that active over the last offseason getting another big name star or anything like that. They wanted to put all the pressure back on Jimmy. He saw that day after day after day in free agency, and best believe it, that pissed him off most certainly, knowing he has to work even harder at 35. They're going to expect him to just do it all over again, and I do think that did show that Pat Riley is declining a little bit in terms of his instincts throughout free agency, really being able to be active on the phone with these front offices and really get deals done and be active. And I feel like a part of that does come with old age, not I know his schedule, but it gets harder to move around. You might not get to things as fast as he used to. And he probably just thought with Jimmy taking him to the finals twice like that, Jimmy, we still have Jimmy at the top of the roster. We still got Tyler, Bam, call it a day, And I think they didn't really go out and get the necessary role players that they needed to improve the roster, especially with Jimmy declining in age. He needs someone to really take that edge off in a big way. And of course, Tyler's doing that this year. But of course, Jimmy isn't there, unfortunately, to really show what that was going to look like with Tyler hitting the next level and Jimmy still being a star player. So we didn't really get to see what it was going to look like with Jimmy. Of course, Bam Adebayo was always there, but, Bam never averaged 24 points, and stuff like that, like how Tyler Hero is doing right now as a candidate for the Most Improved Player of the Year award. So, my whole point is, after all that being said, all you had to do was just go to work, man. It would have made going to another team easier. You wouldn't be suspended right now and not making any money. At least you would have stayed active. You would have showed what you could still do if you go to your next team. It would have showed
almost $3 million.
Exactly. Like it would, and like for what? Like for what? Sitting at home doing nothing because you're mad that they don't want to give you more money. Now you're losing money.
Going to rival games.
Seriously,
that's crazy, man. I mean,
seriously, like
$3 million may not be much to you, but just for not showing up for work, I mean,
I wish I can get a piece of that $3 million.
Yeah, man, what?
Not even the whole $3 million.
I'm like, he just like $3 million. Hey, I'll take it, brother. I'll take it.
It's just out there in the void now. It's just nowhere to be found. It's gone. You know me, and like it's unfortunate. Like Wiley said, I do think he'll be a Hall of Famer. 6-time All-Star. 5-time All-NBA. Most Improved Player of the Year award. Like he was a great player during his era. He was, could definitely a star talent for sure. Led his team to the finals twice as the face of a franchise, as the head of a franchise, and that definitely did a lot for his confidence, knowing he can do that. For years, he watched the NBA, seeing all these superstar players lead their team to the finals, and he went on to do the exact same thing, not having another All NBA caliber talent by his side and getting his team to the finals on 2 different occasions, one as an 8th seed. So he had to play the first seed out the gate and then beat all the teams from then on there. And even then when they played Boston, they were up 3, lost 3, and had to win in game 7. So he's had a hell of a ride with the Miami Heat. Best believe it. It's unfortunately to see it come to an end this way. I think everything that I just said is why he is extremely upset that he didn't at least get that veteran contract, the kind of money that it would have at least given him guaranteed money if they would have traded him at 37 when he really declined at that point, and he still had a good bag just being Jimmy Butler and stuff like that. Like all of that's gone. He might not get that big retirement contract now. He might have to settle for $100 million over 4 years. 20, 60, 80, 100, something like that, versus getting that 250 million that he's accustomed to. And it's unfortunate, but either way, like I said, gaining money is always better than losing money. I don't care if it's $5. And unfortunate. We'll see what happens with Jimmy Butler. He's still a great player. I think he will get picked up by a team. Most certainly, he's still a great player in this league. Can average 15 a game right now at 35 years old with 5 boards and 5 assists. And he has championship experience. So, once it hits the playoff time, he'll be a solid guy. And, yeah, man, either way, shout out to Jimmy Butler. Like Wiley said, my main man, he's a future Hall of Famer. Most certainly he is. Like my man Garrett said, he'll get a jersey retirement. I think it would be nice. I think it'd be disrespectful to let someone else come in there and wear 22 after what he did. It'd be pretty disrespectful to let that happen. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, it was a great show tonight. I got to talk about some of the upcoming draftees that we have in the future. The future of the NBA, the face of the NBA. Always having that discussion. Me and Garrett agreed on that. It's Victor Wembanyama. We both feel very strongly about that. And we're both going to continue to argue that until we're shown different from another player in the league right now. And of course, we just talked about Jimmy Butler. We'll see what happens. My literal last 2 cents on that. We will see what team that he goes to. Like Garrett said, there is not much time left in the Jimmy Butler saga. So we don't have much time. So either way, Pat has no choice but to either pick up the phone or just let him sit on the bench the rest of the season and they get nothing out of it. No trade asset, no draft pick, no nothing. So I do think they are going to pull the trigger. It'll just be interesting to see where he goes to. And that's it from me on episode 61 of the Uncommon Commentators podcast. Thank y'all so much again for joining us. Garrett, do you have any other closing words that you have to say?
That is all. Thank you all for tuning in with us. We really do appreciate you guys.
God bless y'all. Good night, or whenever you're watching this, of course. Y'all have a blessed night, blessed day. Stay safe with your family. Stay warm. And keep watching hoops. We love y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. Shout out to Wiley, Jay Holloway, Raina Holloway, every single one of y'all. We love every single one of y'all. And y'all have a nice night, nice day, whenever you're watching this. And God bless y'all, most definitely.